The fluorescent lights of Savimart flickered overhead as Marcus Bennett stood in the bakery section, his calloused hands trembling slightly as he counted the crumpled bills one more time. $3.47. That was everything, the last of his paycheck after rent, utilities, and his daughter's medications. The pink birthday cake in front of him cost exactly $3.47, reduced because tomorrow was its expiration date. Marcus felt his throat tighten as he picked up the slightly dented box, knowing that this year, this damaged discount cake was the only gift he could give his little girl for her 8th birthday. Behind him, an elderly woman in a motorized wheelchair struggled to reach a cake on the top shelf, her thin arm stretching upward in vain. Marcus heard her frustrated sigh, and even though exhaustion weighed on every bone in his body after a double shift at the warehouse, he couldn't just walk away. He never could. "Let me help you, ma'am," Marcus said softly, setting down his daughter's cake and reaching for the one the woman was trying to grab. The woman turned, and Marcus felt his heart crack open. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old, though her weathered eyes held decades of pain. Her legs lay motionless beneath a faded blanket, and her small hands gripped the wheelchair's controls with determination that seemed too fierce for someone so young. "Thank you, mister," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's my birthday tomorrow, and Grandma promised we'd get a cake this year, but she had to work late, so she gave me money to get it myself." Marcus glanced at the price tag, $12 for a custom cake decorated with purple butterflies. He watched as the girl fumbled with a small coin purse, her fingers moving slowly, methodically counting quarters and dimes. After several minutes, her face fell. "I'm short," she said, her voice cracking. "I only have $8.16. I counted it 3 times at home, but I must have lost some on the bus." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Grandma is going to be so disappointed. She worked extra shifts all month to save up." Marcus looked at the cake in his own hands, then back at the girl. His daughter Emily would understand. She always did. At 7 years old, she'd already learned more about sacrifice than most adults ever would. Since the accident that took her mother 2 years ago, since the medical bills that buried them in debt, Emily had become his little warrior, his reason for breathing, his reminder that goodness still existed in a world that often felt impossibly cruel. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Marcus asked, kneeling beside the wheelchair. "Lily," she replied, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Well, Lily, I think there's been a mistake with the pricing." Marcus pulled out his money, every last cent he had, and handed it to the cashier who had been watching the exchange with glistening eyes. "This cake is actually on sale today for $8.16. The rest is my contribution to your birthday." The cashier, a middle-aged woman named Rosa who had worked at Savimart for 15 years, understood immediately. She nodded, processing the transaction without a word. Lily's face transformed, sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Really? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much." She clutched the cake box to her chest like it was made of gold. "What's your name?" "Marcus. And you have yourself the happiest birthday tomorrow, okay?" As Lily wheeled away, calling back thank yous over her shoulder, Marcus stood in the aisle empty-handed, his wallet completely bare. No cake for Emily. No money for the bus ride home, he'd have to walk the 4 miles. No groceries until next Friday's paycheck. But somehow, seeing Lily's joy made his chest feel lighter instead of heavier. Rosa touched his arm gently. "That was beautiful," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But what about your daughter's cake?" Marcus smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "We'll figure something out. We always do." What Marcus didn't know was that the entire interaction had been captured on Savimart's security cameras. What he didn't know was that Rosa would go home that night unable to stop thinking about his selflessness. And what he couldn't have possibly imagined was that Rosa's nephew, David Chen, was the newly appointed CEO of Chen Industries, a billion-dollar corporation that had just launched a nationwide initiative to identify and reward everyday heroes. Rosa called David that evening, her words tumbling out in an emotional rush as she described what she'd witnessed. David listened, then asked her to send him the security footage. He watched it 3 times, his own eyes growing damp. In his position, he saw greed daily, people stepping on others to climb higher, cutting corners, prioritizing profit over humanity. But this man, this father with nothing, had given everything to a stranger. David made some calls. By midnight, he had tracked down Marcus Bennett's information through the store's loyalty card system. What he discovered made his determination intensify. Marcus was a single father raising a daughter with cerebral palsy. He worked 2 jobs, had medical debt exceeding $200,000, and according to his employer, had never missed a shift or complained once. His performance reviews described him as the heart of the team and someone who makes everyone around him better. The next morning, Marcus woke Emily before dawn as usual, helping her through her physical therapy exercises with patience and gentle encouragement. "Happy birthday, baby girl," he whispered, kissing her forehead. "Daddy's got a surprise for you tonight." Emily beamed up at him, her smile crooked but radiant. "You're the best surprise, Daddy. You're all I need." Marcus's heart shattered and healed simultaneously, the way only a parent's can. He went to work at the warehouse, unloading trucks in the November cold, his mind spinning with ideas for how to make Emily's birthday special without money. Maybe he could fashion something from cardboard, draw her a cake, sing extra loud. She deserved so much more. At precisely 2 p.m., Marcus's supervisor approached him with an odd expression. "Bennett, there's someone here to see you." In the front office. Confused and worried, visitors never meant good news, Marcus followed. In the small administrative office stood a man in an expensive suit, alongside Rosa from Savimart, and a news crew with cameras. "Mr. Bennett," the man said, extending his hand. "My name is David Chen. I'm the CEO of Chen Industries. I need to show you something." David played the security footage on a laptop. Marcus watched himself give away his last money, watched Lily's face light up, watched himself walk away with nothing. His eyes burned with unshed tears. "Why are you showing me this?" Marcus asked quietly. "Because the world needs to see what real kindness looks like," David replied. "My Aunt Rosa told me what you did. I did some research, Mr. Bennett. You're drowning in medical debt, working yourself to exhaustion, and yet you gave your last $3.47 to a child you'd never met. You chose her joy over your own daughter's birthday cake." Marcus shook his head. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," David said firmly. "They wouldn't have. Most people would have looked away. You didn't." He paused, pulling out an envelope. Chen Industries has a program dedicated to supporting everyday heroes. On behalf of our company, I'm pleased to present you with a check for $250,000, enough to cover your medical debt and provide a fresh start for you and Emily. The room spun. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't process the numbers on the check David pressed into his hands. "There's more," David continued, his own voice growing emotional. "We're also offering you a position at our company as Director of Community Outreach, a role focused on identifying others like you and helping them. The salary is $95,000 a year with full benefits, including comprehensive medical coverage for Emily. And we've taken the liberty of contacting Lily's grandmother. We're covering Lily's medical expenses and setting up a fund for her future." Marcus collapsed into a chair, shoulders shaking with sobs that came from somewhere deep and ancient, a place where he'd stored all his fear and exhaustion and desperate hope. Rosa knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, crying too. "Why?" Marcus finally managed to ask. "Why me?" David's eyes were bright with tears. "Because you remind us what we're supposed to be. My company has billions of dollars, but we'd lost sight of what really matters. You, with your last $3.47, showed more humanity than I've seen in boardrooms worth millions.